The photograph is grainy, almost blurred by time. A shattered U-boat conning tower, half submerged, its serial number barely visible beneath the waves. Nearby, a broken radio intercept crackles faintly in the archives, fragments of Morse code lost in static. The irony is brutal. Germany's feared underwater fleet, once thought invincible, was systematically erased not by torpedoes or surface ships, but by an array of seemingly humble weapons, depth charges and the so-called hedgehogs. How could the Kriegsmarine, masters of stealth and strategy, have failed to foresee such a silent annihilation? What unseen flaw allowed these new tools to rip through the undersea shield like paper? In the early years of World War II, the German U-boat fleet was a symbol of naval dominance. Designed for stealth and surprise, these submarines prowled the Atlantic, cutting Allied supply lines with terrifying efficiency. Yet by 1942, a shift began. Allied convoys were no longer easy prey. The origins of this turning point lie in the urgent need for anti-submarine warfare innovations, driven by desperation and the ingenuity of Allied engineers. Among the artifacts unearthed is a blueprint of the Hedgehog, a forward-throwing spigot mortar capable of launching 24 small contact bombs simultaneously. Unlike traditional depth charges, which detonated at preset depths, these projectiles exploded only upon contact, eliminating evasive countermeasures. But why did the German High Command underestimate such a seemingly primitive device? Was there a deeper blindness to the changing nature of naval combat? The core design of the Hedgehog was deceptively simple, yet revolutionary. Weighing just under 60 kilograms per projectile, each bomb packed a 35-pound Torpex charge, more focused than the bulkier depth charges. Mounted on the bows of Allied destroyers, the weapon allowed attacks while maintaining sonar contact, a drastic evolution from earlier tactics that forced ships to lose target lock during their attack runs. Depth charges, by contrast, were large canisters dropped off the stern, detonating at calibrated depths, often too late or too shallow to inflict damage. Yet the German U-boat's pressure hull, typically around 18 millimeters thick, was vulnerable to even minor breaches. How could German engineers have missed the threat posed by these lightweight projectiles? Did their confidence in the pressure hull's integrity become a fatal illusion? The first major trial of the Hedgehog came in late 1942, when the British 3rd Escort Group deployed the weapon during convoy escort duties in the North Atlantic. Initial reports from squadron commanders narrated a grim shift, where depth charges often forced submarines to dive deeper and escape. Hedgehog attacks ended encounters abruptly. The case of U-587, sunk near Iceland in November 1942, was among the first clear evidences. Sonar operators detected the sub. The Hedgehog salvo was launched, and minutes later, oil and debris surfaced. Official records describe it as a swift and decisive kill, a phrase that echoed uneasily among German commanders. Was this a glimpse of a new era, one where submarines, once hunters, became vulnerable prey? How did the Kriegsmarine interpret this ominous message from the deep? Faced with this rising threat, German naval commands scrambled to devise countermeasures. Tactical adjustments included diving deeper than the effective range of depth charges and hedgehogs, though this was limited by crush depth ceilings. Instructions circulated urging increased use of decoys and silent running to evade sonar detection. Some U-boats were equipped with improved hydrophones and alberic, anechoic tiles, designed to absorb sonar pings. Yet these measures often arrived too late or were insufficient. Behind closed doors, engineers debated the possibility of developing new hull materials or active counterweapons, but resource shortages and shifting strategic priorities stifled innovation. Could the German Navy have reversed this tide if given more time or better intelligence? Or was the fate of the U-boat fleet sealed by a failure to grasp the transformative impact of these new weapons? The crisis peaked in mid-1943 as Allied anti-submarine tactics matured. The Battle of the Atlantic turned decisively against the Kriegsmarine. U-boat production surged, but losses outpaced gains. Hundreds of submarines lost to Hedgehog salvos and depth charge barrages. Maps from naval intelligence reveal shrinking safe zones in the Atlantic, while protocols mandated constant sonar vigilance and convoy air cover. Yet, Despite mounting evidence, some German commanders clung to outdated doctrines, convinced of their subs' invulnerability. The contradiction between reality and belief grew stark. How did this cognitive dissonance persist amid undeniable losses? What hidden pressures and flawed assumptions blinded the German command to the lethal efficiency of these Allied innovations? Each episode is a document I pull from the dust of the archives. Share your own stories. Many of you have relatives who lived through that time, and your words help connect personal memory with archival evidence. Stay curious. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode tomorrow. By late 1943, the cumulative toll was staggering. Allied reports recorded over 200 U-boats destroyed by Hedgehog and depth charge attacks in just 6 months. A staggering figure that German naval intelligence struggled to fully acknowledge. A faded map, annotated in hurried handwriting by a Kriegsmarine analyst, charts the shrinking corridors through which submarines might pass undetected. The Atlantic, once a vast hunting ground, now resembled a gauntlet of death. The metallic scent of engine oil and salt water clung to recovered fragments from sunken U-boats, bearing silent witness to the underwater battles lost. Yet official German communications rarely mentioned Hedgehogs by name, often dismissing them as minor nuisances. Why did the High Command suppress or distort these reports? Was there a deliberate attempt to maintain morale through illusion, or a deeper failure in the flow of information? Inside U-boat command centers, tension mounted. Officers pored over sonar logs and damage reports, desperate for patterns or weaknesses in the new Allied weapons. Memoirs from surviving crew members reveal a growing dread, not just of being hunted, but of a weapon they could neither see nor predict. The Hedgehog's contact detonation meant the first salvo might be the last, leaving no chance for evasive maneuvers once locked in. Meanwhile, the psychological impact was profound. The ever-present threat of sudden, invisible destruction eroded crew morale. How did this invisible enemy infiltrate the minds of those trained to conquer the seas? Was the Kriegsmarine prepared for a war fought as much in fear and uncertainty as in firepower? On the technical front, designs for enhanced countermeasures flickered in German workshops. Proposals for improved hull reinforcements surfaced, along with experimental acoustic decoys meant to mislead Hedgehog targeting. Yet these prototypes rarely progressed beyond blueprints and test tanks, stymied by material shortages and bombing campaigns that crippled German industry. A fragile paper blueprint, stained and annotated in German, outlines a concept for a new pressure-resistant alloy. Too late to influence the battlefield. Allied code-breaking efforts further hampered German innovation, intercepting test communications and preempting countermeasures. How close did Germany come to developing a viable defense? Was the failure to deploy these innovations a matter of timing, resource scarcity, or flawed strategy? Meanwhile, the Allies refined their tactics. Escort groups coordinated Hedgehog attacks with air reconnaissance, creating deadly traps that allowed no reprieve for submerged U-boats. Sonar operators trained to detect subtle acoustic signatures, while destroyer captains learned to anticipate U-boat evasions. Declassified radio transcripts revealed terse, precise commands. Prepare Hedgehog salvo at 0400 hours. Target submerged at 150 meters. The synchronized dance of technology and strategy turned the Atlantic into a killing theater. Yet, even as the Allies celebrated, questions lingered. How much did the Germans truly understand about the evolving threat? Did intelligence failures or internal skepticism prevent timely adaptation? What shadows of doubt still hang over the true extent of knowledge within the Kriegsmarine's ranks? As losses mounted, debates within German naval leadership became fierce. Some argued for a strategic withdrawal from the Atlantic, redirecting resources to other theaters, while others insisted on continuing the submarine war at all costs. A confidential memo, marked Top Secret, reveals these divisions, citing Hedgehog effectiveness as a critical concern. The tension between hope and despair played out not only in maps and reports, but in the very fabric of command decisions. What internal fractures did this weaponry expose within the Kriegsmarine? Did the emergence of Hedgehogs accelerate the collapse of German naval ambitions by unraveling trust and cohesion? The final months of 1943 saw a grim acceptance of reality. Hedgehogs and depth charges were no longer anomalies, but the defining scourge of the U-boat fleet. Their threat forced an uneasy recalibration of naval doctrine and a tacit acknowledgement of vulnerability. Yet the full story How these seemingly small mechanical devices reshaped underwater warfare and dismantled an empire beneath the waves remains partially obscured, hidden in fragments of documents and fading memories. What other truths lie submerged in these archives, waiting for eyes willing to see beyond the surface? In the cold steel corridors of a U-boat dockyard, a worn technical manual lies open, its pages yellowed and edges frayed. Handwritten notes in the margins reference Tochgerät hedgehog, a term that struck confusion among German engineers. Early intelligence reports had misclassified the hedgehog as a minor nuisance, a relic of outdated Allied desperation. Yet photographs from recovered Allied vessels show the weapon's distinctive spigot mortar launchers mounted prominently on destroyer bows, a silent testament to its growing lethality. The manual's annotations reveal a desperate scramble to comprehend the hedgehog's mechanics and its tactical implications. Why was this critical information delayed or dismissed? Did bureaucratic inertia or inter-service rivalry blind the Kriegsmarine to the real scale of the threat? Meanwhile, Allied technical intelligence worked tirelessly to refine hedgehog deployment. Reports from sonar technicians describe the eerie silence following a salvo, broken only by the sudden, violent explosion upon contact. Unlike depth charges, which detonated regardless of proximity, hedgehogs required precise targeting, demanding advanced sonar accuracy. This innovation forced German submarines into a deadly game of cat and mouse beneath the waves. A declassified sonar operator's log details a successful hedgehog attack on U-211, noting the exact frequency shifts detected before impact. How did the Kriegsmarine's sonar capabilities compare? Were they equipped to detect the nuanced acoustic signatures that spelled doom? Or were their tools lagging behind, condemning crews to an unseen death? As the war progressed, the psychological impact of these new weapons deepened. Crew members' diaries, preserved in private collections, recount the terror of being relentlessly hunted by invisible forces. One entry describes the shudder of a hedgehog salvo striking near the pressure hull, the sudden loss of buoyancy, and the muffled screams through the hull's steel confines. These personal accounts contrast sharply with official dispatches, which often underplayed losses and maintained an aura of invincibility. What was the cost of such denial? Did the disconnect between frontline reality and command narratives erode trust within the ranks? How did this chasm affect operational effectiveness in the crucial months after Hedgehog introduction? On the strategic level, German naval planners debated the feasibility of offensive adaptation. Proposals to shift U-boat tactics towards surface night attacks aimed to exploit perceived gaps in Allied detection, yet air patrols and radar advances quickly negated these moves. A classified War Council transcript reveals frustration over the Hedgehog's role in tipping the scales, describing it as a weapon born of desperation that became a decisive force. Were there missed opportunities to innovate counter-tactics or weapons? Or did the overwhelming industrial and technological capacity of the Allies make any German advancement futile? How much did the Hedgehog symbolize a broader shift in naval warfare paradigms from brute force to precision and technology? In the shadowy recesses of Allied naval intelligence, the Hedgehog's development was a closely guarded secret. Its success depended not only on mechanical design but on integrated tactics, communication, and training. A training film reel, recently declassified, shows destroyer crews practicing simultaneous sonar tracking and Hedgehog firing, emphasizing split-second timing. This synergy was a stark contrast to the fragmented German responses, where information lagged and innovations were piecemeal. How instrumental was this coordination in the Hedgehog's effectiveness? Could a different command structure or intelligence network have altered the Kriegsmarine's fate? Or was the outcome predetermined by the Allies' mastery of combined arms warfare? The Hedgehog's legacy is etched not only in the steel wrecks scattered beneath the Atlantic, but in the transformation of naval combat doctrine. Its emergence forced a paradigm shift, where stealth was no longer a guarantee of survival, and lethality was redefined by precision strikes in the unforgiving depths. A faded war diary entry from a squadron commander sums it up tersely. The sea turned against us, not with thunderous guns, but with silent spikes that pierced the dark. What deeper lessons remain hidden in this legacy? How did the interplay of innovation, intelligence, and human resilience shape the final chapters of the submarine war. And what warnings does this history whisper to those who still seek dominion over the oceans? By the spring of 1944, the once feared U-boat fleet had been reduced to shadows of its former self. Naval intelligence intercepts reveal a bleak tone in encrypted communications, messages truncated, details omitted, hope fading. The pressure hulls that had once slipped through the ocean's depths with impunity now seemed fragile, vulnerable to the relentless precision of Allied Hedgehog salvos and depth charge. Barrages. A worn photograph captures the aftermath of one such encounter. A twisted wreck, its periscope bent and broken, surrounded by a slick of oil and debris, the silent testament to a weapon once underestimated. How had this silent killer rewritten the rules of naval engagement? Was the Kriegsmarine's downfall inevitable once these weapons entered the fray? In the final analysis, the Hedgehog and depth charges did more than destroy steel and men. They shattered illusions. The German submarine fleet, a symbol of technological prowess and tactical mastery, was undone by the convergence of innovation, adaptation, and relentless pressure. Yet within the shadows of this defeat lies a deeper story of intelligence failures, misjudged threats, and a command structure unable or unwilling to confront the evolving face of warfare beneath the waves. What remains hidden in these fractured narratives? What voices were lost beneath the ocean's surface, and what truths lie buried in the cold depths of history?